I am Benedicte. You can pronounce it Benedicte, like the Pope, but in French it's a female name, or Benny, like my Irish friends call me. I am 42. I have 2 children, 11 and 8, and a wonderful husband. I'm LIS since 2016. I was 35 and my children 4 and less than 2. I used to be a social worker. I used to work with homeless people, mentally handicapped people, young children, and people in jail. I used to travel with Alex, my husband. We spent 2 years in Ireland and 1 in South America. I love to travel. I did a school program in Ireland, and after my studies I wanted to return there. I was working in a pub and with homeless people. In South America we were traveling for pleasure to discover other countries. On 12 November 2016 I began to be LIS. It was like a tsunami for the next 3 years. During the first month I was crying all day, all the time. For several days before the stroke, I had what I would describe as white veils in front of my eyes, and I had to stop when I was driving my car. One morning, I felt very tired and I couldn't get up. 2 hours later, I was mute, incontinent, and so tired that I couldn't get up. My husband soon realized that it was a stroke, but I didn't. I was conscious. I had no pain anywhere. I was sure I would be home in the evening. The next few hours were mostly waiting. The young doctor called different hospitals for advice. On the first day, we learned that this was LIS. From the beginning, as soon as I was laying on the stretcher, my husband kept communicating with me through my eyes. He didn't know then that this was the means of communication for LIS. He did it instinctively. The hardest thing when I begin LIS is to learn to bear the pain. For example, I was uncomfortable in my wheelchair. My buttocks hurt. Firstly, I had to be able to call a nurse. Then I had to control my uncontrollable crying to be able to communicate with her. Then, without words or gestures, I had to make it clear that I was in pain and where. It's difficult because at the beginning you cry for everything. One strange thing that came with the stroke was that my emotions increased tenfold. For example, I can no longer eat pepper, it's too strong. As soon as the weather is clear, even without sunshine, my eyes hurt. The side effect of a drug I take. I can drink soft drinks normally, but I have to thicken alcoholic drinks. Because it's too strong, I might swallow it wrongly. If I'm 20 meters from my garden and I look at my computer, from the corner of my eye, I'll notice if a bird is coming because my senses are hyper-aware. I also feel the stress of others very strongly. If my nurse is stressed, I'll be nervous too. I'll be more spastic and too stiff to drive my wheelchair. After a few months, my husband had a marvelous idea to build a purpose-built house to suit my needs. I asked people to give us 100 of their salary to help us to construct an adapted house. I didn't believe it, but it worked. We have done crowdfunding, but also thrown dinner parties, a one-man show, jogging, sales of waffles, chocolate, biscuit, whatever we could think of to raise money. It was all raised by my family, friends, young people who I used to work with. With the crowdfunding, we built an adapted house. You can see it on my Facebook page, Les Gouttes d'eau pour Béné. For the crowdfunding, Alex and one of my sisters, I have 4 sisters, I'm the youngest, created a Facebook page. Now, since the crowdfunding is finished, on the Facebook page, I'm writing what life is like for a handicapped physically person. Because in Belgium, people don't know a lot about this subject. I haven't a lot of respect for people like me. So, it's my idea to try to inform people about living locked in, because I believe people don't have a lot of respect when they don't know what it's like to be locked in. During my first year in the hospital, they gave me a computer which works with the eyes. At the beginning, I was unable to use it. While Netflix is good for a short while, all the time it is boring and not fulfilling. To learn how to use the eye-controlled computer, I decided to write. Then I had to decide what. I decided to write about having the stroke and what was happening to me. When I finished writing about my experiences during and after the stroke, I decided to print it and to see whether people were interested. To my surprise and delight, people loved it. In French, it is called J'ai de la chance, which translates to I'm lucky. I gave my book this title because I'm lucky to have a wonderful family, to keep my faith, to live in our century where technology is available, to live in a rich country, and many more reasons that makes me truly believe that I am lucky. Writing with the eyes is very tiring in itself, but what is more difficult is that everything requires much more manipulation. For example, to change the program, it is several clicks, and that is very tiring. Otherwise, it's quite easy to use, at least for me who knew computers from the age of 18. But I know that it's complicated for older people. What is very frustrating when you are LIS is wanting to talk about your needs but not being able to communicate. For example, you are laying down but your pelvis is not properly positioned. How are you going to communicate this without any words or gestures? Try it for yourself this evening in bed. Or it is difficult when you are cold or hot during the night. These sort of things are very difficult to express. With time, my situation has improved. The emotions that were very, very strong in the beginning have gradually become more manageable. Now, I am sometimes able to show that I'm unhappy without crying. I love and cry in a less extreme way. After a few months, I could move my head, my thumbs, and push on my legs. During the confinement, I learned to drive my wheelchair by myself. It is a very strange feeling, but I felt that my hand was now able to drive. I asked for a joystick and forced myself to drive for 10 minutes a day. It was mentally exhausting. After 2 years, I started to eat, first mixed and then small pieces. I have been drinking for a year and a half. My husband and I still love to travel, but it's very difficult to find a suitable adapted house for high-level handicap. So, we decided to make one location for our holidays. We bought a house in France. With my husband, we were a very good team. In less than 1 year, we did all the work and the decoration. I did publicity and also created a website. We have been open to guests for 1 year. In Belgium, these people have nobody to help them. The state doesn't pay for assistance. So, sometimes I'm hungry or dirty, but I must wait for a family member to come back. Life is difficult, not just for me, but also for my family members. It is why we are creating BALIS, the Belgian Association of Locked-in Syndrome. The first goal is to question the Belgian authorities about the necessities of a life lived locked in and impress on them the importance of helping people living LIS. After my stroke, I had to reinvent my life. I used to be a social worker, but without being able to move or speak, it is impossible for me to return to social work. Instead, I have found projects to help me to live and to feel I am helping myself and others. First, small projects like doing a picture album. But after a while, I found bigger projects, and some of which are useful, such as doing online shopping for my family or helping with homework, my children. To be willing to reinvent my life, to readapt myself, was my best quality. Now, I am able to enjoy my life mostly. But there is so much that I want to do, and I don't have enough time in a day. I love to travel, so my objective is to buy a furnished bus. For the moment, I haven't the money to buy it, and I have nobody to drive it. I don't know how I will do it, but I believe I will.
On ne souhaiterait cela à personne, même pas à son pire ennemi. Voilà ce qu'un proche m'a dit lorsque Benedicte a été diagnostiqué Locked-in syndrome. En effet, comment imaginer vivre le restant de ses jours complètement paralysée et muette? Je m'appelle Alex, je suis le conjoint de Benedicte et j'aimerais vous faire part dans cet enregistrement de mon vécu et de mon expérience de vie en tant que partenaire d'une personne atteinte de Locked-in syndrome. Alors pour moi, le LIS, c'est avant tout un choc brutal qui, du coup, se vit comme un deuil. Comme tous les chocs, les gros chocs qui arrivent dans la vie, quand on se les prend en pleine figure, c'est un deuil qu'il faut traverser. Alors ce deuil, il prend la forme d'une personne, entre guillemets, qui disparaît. Benedicte, Béné, est toujours là physiquement, mais sa voix, sa gestuelle, sa dynamique, toutes ces petites choses qui la définissaient au quotidien et qui faisaient que c'était elle, tout ça a disparu en un instant. C'est évidemment un sentiment d'injustice totale qui apparaît, mais qui est vite balayé par les contraintes du quotidien. Vous n'avez pas le temps d'y penser. Les premiers mois correspondent à une plongée dans le monde du lourd handicap. L'entourage et les moyens financiers sont primordiaux pour sortir la tête de l'eau. Et puis, au fil des mois, vous avez une sorte de métamorphose qui s'impose à vous. En fait, vous naviguez complètement en terrain inconnu et du coup, vous vous adaptez en permanence et vous vous transformez petit à petit. Tout prend énormément de temps, étant donné la pathologie. La communication est différente, la gestuelle change, les routines ne sont plus les mêmes, les réflexes sont différents, le manque se fait ressentir, les envies également, les frustrations. Tout ça sont autant de choses qu'il faut se réapproprier et qu'il faut voir différemment, qu'il faut vivre autrement. Car être le partenaire d'une personne en situation de Jullien syndrome, c'est aussi devenir ses bras, ses mains, ses jambes, sa voix. Et c'est également porter plusieurs casquettes, parce que les aides sont insuffisantes. Portez donc les casquettes d'infirmier, d'auxiliaire de vie, de chauffeur, d'assistante sociale, de secrétaire, d'informaticien, enfin bref, j'en passe. Ça est évidemment beaucoup trop lourd à porter pour un seul homme. Et d'un coup, moi j'ai fait quelques épisodes de surcharge mentale et émotionnelle. Alors, évidemment, au début, naturellement, ça explose complètement. Et puis, maintenant, je commence à les voir venir. Donc, alors, à ce moment-là, on s'organise pour que je puisse partir seul quelques jours et prendre du temps uniquement pour moi et me recentrer. Alors, étonnamment, après plusieurs années, vous avez une sorte de nouvel équilibre de vie qui commence à prendre sa place. Et les projets, tant de couple qu'individuels, peuvent renaître. On se sent à nouveau se construire, et ce qui fait surtout du bien, on récupère cette confiance en soi qui s'était faite complètement submergée par ce tsunami qui est le Jullien syndrome. Donc voici mon expérience de vie décrite brièvement en tant que partenaire d'une personne atteinte de Jullien syndrome. Il va de soi qu'il y a des centaines d'anecdotes que je pourrais vous conter sur les épreuves et sur les moments de vie suite à cette pathologie. Et je vous assure que tout est loin d'être noir. On a de grands moments de gaieté, de joie et de rigolade, de nouvelles rencontres également qui se sont faites suite à la pathologie et de nouvelles amitiés qui se sont créées. Donc c'est littéralement une nouvelle vie qui commence suite à cette pathologie et nous essayons d'en profiter au maximum. Je vous remercie.